Hi, everybody. It's Charles Thiede, CEO and co-founder of Zapnito. I'm here with Reda Sadki, who's the founder of Geneva Learning Foundation. Hi, Reda.
Hi, Charles.
So this will be, kind of, I think, a pretty quick interview. We'll do two parts, and really appreciate, the time you have to dedicate to this. And I thought we'd start with is we're working with you and you're a partner of ours. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the Geneva Learning Foundation, but before maybe just kind of the journey to get there and what sort of the inspiration was to make that happen.
Sure. Our mission is to do research and development to find better ways to learn, to foster new forms of leadership, and basically to lead change. And our focus is on humanitarian development and global health work, where we're facing challenges as societies, the world is facing challenges that are before us for which we don't have enough people. The people we have don't have the right combination of skills. And there's a whole question around leadership, who's going to, and we're talking about leadership from the community level up.
Okay.
Even though we work very much with the international organizations that, over the last century or so, we've managed to create to try to tackle some of these challenges on the global level.
Okay, awesome. And so it's grassroots and then also at the global level. So that must be quite a challenge to bring that together.
So we work with the world's largest international organizations, from the United Nations system, from the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, and from the international NGOs. But as educators, we're addressing people everywhere and anywhere. Ubiquitous that digital transformation gives us this whole new economy of effort, which means we can address directly communities rather than addressing gatekeepers.
Okay, nice. Okay, and obviously gatekeepers will be part of that community, right? So they're part of it. And tell me a little bit about like the journey to get there. So how did this come about? Maybe go back to when you were a little boy, or what was the journey to create this, and what was the inspiration that got you here?
There's sort of two strands. I spent a good, the sort of first 20 years or so of my adult life as a community organizer, working in the grassroots, working with people who are facing poverty, disease, and racism. And then parallel to that, I worked with international organizations and was asked at one point by Undersecretary General if I could help him bring that particular organization into the 21st century. And what it was I got stuck with managing a broken learning management system, the kind that has sort of seeped into many organizations and companies that could not possibly do what I was being asked to do, which was address a network of 17 million volunteers working in 189 countries, and figure out how to support their learning needs using digital means. That's where we began to ask questions about community, about culture, and then creating the Geneva Learning Foundation. I brought together basically the educators who were sort of on the cutting edge of higher ed, of sort of change in higher education. People like George Siemens, who's a sort of founding father of massive open online courses, or one of the three, and others, and challenge them by saying, well, you're doing this cutting edge work at with higher ed, but in development, humanitarian, and global health work, in terms of sort of learning, education, and training, we have some challenges. Can you help us out there? They all said yes. It started from there.
Awesome. And how do you know when you're successful in terms of impact? Obviously it's a big question, but how do you determine that, and how do you report that back?
That's spot on, right? In learning and development, I think every chief learning officer has a dilemma. How do you demonstrate impact, that you're not just a cost center within the organization? And then with the rise of with the rise of digital, it's now no longer new. I mean, there might be some organizations catching up, but so the challenge is, there's a disconnect between learning that requires you to stop work, yes, and then what you do with what you learn. So what we've done is we've developed a low-cost, scalable package of interventions that we call the sort of scholar package, through which around pretty much any thematic area, any business problem, we can sort of mobilize a network of people or create a network if there isn't one, and produce the kinds of learning outcomes that you get through training, but also go beyond that. Have people come out after a very short time, connected to each other, feeling empowered by each other as peers. That's basically community, but a community of action, not a community of practice. Communities of practice basically, mostly don't work. Yes, like Wenger in private actually recognizes that. Yes, but this idea of the community of action, people have a sort of a shared purpose and mission, and we've done this with, across several thematic areas. So we actually think the model we have and the sort of package will work in many different areas. The latest component of this package is called the Impact Accelerator, and it's in fact focused on answering precisely your question, which is the combination of sort of monitoring, empowerment system to support people who have an interest in leading change, using what they gain from courses, from this sort of formal, structured learning journey. And we just finished piloting the Impact Accelerator, have seen some results above and beyond our own expectations as well as our partners. And we actually think it's a completely new model. And yes, we couldn't have done the Impact Accelerator as quickly, as we did without Zapnito.
Well, awesome. Yeah. So I'd love to get into that in probably another part of the conversation. I think what I'm going to do, because that was really interesting, and we have a few more things to cover. So I'm going to make that part 1 of 3, if that's okay. Yeah. So I'll stop now, and then we'll get into part 2. So thanks, Reda.
All right.
Hi, everybody. It's Charles Thiede again, Zapnito, and I'm here with Reda Sadki, who's the founder of Geneva Learning Foundation. Hey, Reda. Hi again. So in part 1, we kind of talked about Reda's journey to developing the Geneva Learning Foundation, and talked about what the vision is and the mission, and also the question around how do you determine impact and success in those models from learning to actually application. So definitely check out part 1. Part 2 is going to be pretty short, but it's something I try to ask everybody. So Reda, we'll heard all the awesome stuff you're doing in part 1, but it'd be great to hear about you yourself, and kind of what gets you up in the morning, and maybe who do you consider a couple of your heroes? Because obviously the stuff you're doing is, it has a huge impact on what's happening out there.
Yeah. So what gets me up in the morning? I mean, I think I'm conscious of I've spent my entire adult life working on things that I'm passionate about, committed to, and that hopefully have not been detrimental to the world. Yes. And I realize that's actually, that's quite a privilege, and getting up every morning and sort of being connected to, or getting up in the middle of the night because of time zone differences, and you need to connect with somebody who's in Indonesia, who's facing who needs you, or you need them. I think that's just, I couldn't be happier about that. Pushing very hard so that in addition to the journey, the destination is about producing, realizing the promise, moving closer to not just having a very ambitious mission, but having tangible results to show for it. And that's where we are. We're at the stage where our partners, when you have your biggest partner and donor who tells you that you are doing magic, yes. And that's a nice,
that's a nice affirmation. Yeah.
is motivating. I actually thought about that, and what we do is complex learning. So we so sort of learning to lead change, to tackle complex challenges in global health, development, and humanitarian work. And how we do magic, or our secret sauce, is something that we had to get up early. Many times figured out. But it's kind of like Arthur C. Clarke's comment about how any sufficiently advanced form of science is going to look like magic. And in this case, what we're figuring out how to do is how to do sufficiently advanced learning, so that learning and education and training actually become relevant and business partners, rather than some activity that's seen as a cost center within organizations, and can only make dubious claims about the extent to which they're actually contributing to achieving results. So that's what gets me up. Heroes. I mean, we're working right now on gender in humanitarian emergencies, working with who are trying to figure out how to make sure that the specific needs of men, women, boys, and girls are that nobody gets left behind, even in the most complicated, gruesome humanitarian emergency. Yes,
right.
Some of the folks we work with on immunization. We are seeing people, and we're like, again, it's a privilege to be sort of we receive information about like achievements. I can think of a young doctor in Ghana who within 4 weeks managed to implement a project he developed in one of our courses, through which pregnant women who previously had not received information about sort of their vaccination options were now receiving those options. And he said his motivation was being part of this global network, this global community, for which Zapnito has been one of the sort of destinations, one of the key places where people are able to congregate and share those kinds of successes, the challenges they face, and share their motivation and their yearning for change. They're the heroes.
Wow. Okay, so these are these aren't the Arthur C. Clarkes of the world. These are the people on the ground. These are the people that are making impact as much as they can. That's awesome. Okay, that's really cool. And I think we could talk more and more about that. But it'd be great to hear a little bit about kind of what you see as. I always ask, like, what is your superpower? So you have it. It sounds like your superpower is that you can wake yourself up and have these conversations at 3 a.m. and then maybe go back to sleep.
Superpower, I think it's in the, when I look at other, there are organizations that are much better funded, that have much more prestige, much more sort of formal credentials than we do, and they're not able to deliver the kinds of results that we're delivering, and that our partners, the people we have partnered with, are recognizing, and so. I would say just like that ability in a complex world, at the end of the day, you're judged by execution. You can have nice ideas and a lofty mission, but at the end of the day, it's what you're actually able to deliver. And in that learning space, and in that leadership space and sort of innovation within the humanitarian space, there's a lot of talk. Yes, I think it's like almost to the point where it's almost a superpower when you are able to sort of deliver tangible results. Yes,
well, people get paid to talk, right? So some organizations get paid on the word. Yeah, okay, that makes a huge amount of sense, and I kind of I can relate to that, obviously, because we focus on self-funding and not raising tons and tons of money, so we can really focus on our clients. So that's awesome. Cool. Okay, well, I think we'll stop there for part 2. So that's just to kind of get to know you, and obviously what you're doing is really inspirational. So hopefully people that see this part kind of get a sense of what you're focusing on. So thanks, Reda, and I'll go to part 3.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks.